Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me. As Alan has pointed out, everyone a bit keen this evening. I mentioned the words system, and we get a few in. We're up to 60 odd, I see. I won't say hello to everybody, but give Jorgen first in. Hello, Ian Fincham. Hello, Jason Reynolds. Alan. Hello, Andy. Greetings, Mr. Smith. Nice to see you here. John Seal. Hello. Nice to see you here. Martin. Hello. Chris Pickering, Paul Wilson, Paul Hill, hello. Sal, good evening. Hello, everybody. And anybody else who I haven't mentioned, Nick Hansel, Andrew Thornell, Nick Payne, Paul Wilson, Steve Mander, Neil Wayman, Andy D. Good evening to all of you. Evening sexy, flipping Nick, must be honoured. Right, this is number 4. Number 5 will be next week, and we will finally get this done. The whole purpose of these sessions has been, Chris Canson, Leicester fans coming in, see. Has been to basically walk you through tools to set yourself up trading. So in the first one, we talked about actually understanding market movements and what to do trading. We've gone through a series of them now, and what I'm actually going to do to now is to build a system with you. I'm going to walk you through exactly what I do, what I look for, and the key components of that. And my thought process behind it, and I'm going to show you how it actually works and the work that goes into it from my end before I put a bet down, as opposed to what you guys do, flapping around trying different things for a few minutes and multiple sites. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in number 5, so I don't want to harp on and bollock you all in number 4. Bollocking will come in number 5. Number 5 might get as close as you'll ever see to podcast rant live on YouTube, where you can actually see me blow a gasket. So if that interests you, then tune in next week, because it's highly likely, particularly the state I'm in at the minute. Right, so let me just get there. We're going to have the usual production issues. I will be jumping, evening Steve, jumping between slides, spreadsheets, and myself, so it will be exactly the same level of production. I do this to make you a better trader. I don't do it to be a production specialist and make lovely videos like the Carnberries and Peter Webbs and that of this world. I do it purely to give you information that you can go back, rewatch, write some notes, and actually put into action. I think I share more than anybody on actually how to do things. So hope you like my little picture here. I've managed to cut his bit of writing. Oh, hang on a minute. There you go. Straight into it. Football traders with no plan, waiting for profits to hit their exchange account. I just managed to cut a bit of writing off the end there, but yeah, that's you lot basically. That's you lot just sitting there with no plan, working through it, and I'm going to talk you right through a plan this evening. So what do we actually need to build? And I'm talking purely about trading. I've done some ultimate sessions. This is purely about trading. What do we need? So the first thing we need is data. We need consistent, accurate data. I use FTS Advanced. A lot of you will have had that. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to run you through a sheet in a minute. It's what I use. So a lot of people you'll see, for example, if we take something like CGM, a lot of people are always asking him to add features, and he keeps adding features because he's a software salesman. We don't add anything to FTS Advanced. FTS Advanced was my layout, my design, as per the plus on ultimate sheet and things. They're what I use to bet. So it's got the information on it that I want to bet with. We're just able to make that available to you through Alistair. Being excellent. It takes a massive amount of maintenance. We now collect the price every minute for every market across 28 leagues. So it's a massive amount of data collection and presentation, and it needs to be consistent in its format, and it needs to be accurate. It needs to make sense. And fortunately, if we do make a mistake, there's 2 or 3 of you who email in and say, I think that's wrong, and we can always check it. But I'd never say 100%. I'm pretty certain that our data is 99.99% accurate across over 30,000 games, both in Ultimate and in FTS Advanced. One of the big choices is market. Again, you guys tend to dive about from market to market trying to make something work. As with any form of betting, BAMSI means for your betting activity must suit you. it's got to suit you. So it is pointless. For example, I don't like playing the over 4.5 market because I don't want to wait for 5 goals. Not many games have it. There's not much liquidity in it. It doesn't interest me. I'm not a massive fan of both teams to score because I struggle to win at it. I've had several goes at it. I've not found anything that consistently works for me, so I found it a bit frustrating. So I like the 1.5 market, I like the 2.5 market, and I like the first half 0.5, first half 1.5, and I like trading second half goals. Once you've picked your market, you've got to have a method of game selection. Why are you picking those games? How are you going to go about? You've got a market you want to work in. You've got some data. How are you going to go about picking games? At the minute, there is an absolute, and I talked about it in the first couple of sessions, an absolute wealth of websites that cover stuff. And one of the big things at the minute is alerts or software in play with stuff like dangerous attacks and things, and you can set up alerts from it. That's all very well. What games is it going to pick for you? Why is it picking those games? How are you going to trade those games? I just see, if I go back to the skeleton picture, my history of dealing with people, and it's lots of people, is they just go round in circles, trade a lot of games and actually don't go anywhere. So we're going to talk a little bit about game selection. Why would you pick games to trade? And I'll hopefully give you some reasonable logical examples. And then strategy, right? So we've got our market, we've picked some games. What are we actually going to play? How are we going to play that market? And then once we do that, it is then just committing to execution, and it is being relentless with it. And I'm going to show you numbers tonight. I'm going to walk you right through a system. I'm going to show you numbers at the end of it, why we don't give up after 5 or 6 losers. And actually, we've got to let the big numbers play out. You've got to extend yourself into 5, 6, 7, 800 times of doing the same thing, as dull as it can be, and it can be dull. But that's actually where the money is at the end. And as I say, most people never get that far. They'll try 2, 3 games. Oh, I didn't win anything, and they'll move on. When I get to that, for example, I go to game selection. I had somebody email me. He may well be watching this, and if he's not watching it, I'm sure he will watch it because he's watched the first 3. First, he emailed me saying he struggled finding something to work for him, questioning what I do. We had a back and forth. I told him, basically explained a little bit of what he was doing, trading MLS games, going to work trading MLS games. I told him to stop everything. I said, just stop what you're doing for a minute. I said, watch these. I'll help you, but I can't help you till you start helping yourself. You know, what I do, Psychoff posting £20,000 spread screenshots, doesn't help you, doesn't tell you anything. What I do, it doesn't tell you anything. I'm going to give you a method. So I talked him through it. He listened to some of the strategy podcasts. He opted for the 1.5 first half goal strategy, which I'm going to talk about tonight. And then he sends me an email saying, I've watched the 3 things, great. I listened to the strategy. First half 1.5. I did it on 3 games tonight, didn't get anything. The 3 games were cup games. Leeds, something else. And I just emailed him back and go, I told you not doing it. I don't touch cup games. And so game selection is, you know, that's one of the real key areas where people have got to try and be a bit more adult and a bit more logical about what they do, and get over this. I just want to trade football. Most people I just want to trade football. I don't actually care what I do. I just want to trade football. Well, a lot of people tell me they want to do it seriously and end up don't. And we're going to get, as I say, number 5. Lose it in number 5 here, not number 4. Evening, Stu B. Hope you're well, son. It is Tuesday, Stu, not Saturday. So they're the things I'm going to go through this evening. So game selection first. How are we choosing games? What is it that we're going to choose? When I elaborate on what I just said about that guy, a lot of people see or hear a strategy, and we can be, you know, I can be guilty of it. I've talked a tremendous amount about football trading over the last 3-4 years, particularly since the start of the podcast, start doing these. And I've talked about lots of different methods. And people do it, and then, as I put online too, that they see it and go and try it on games that make no sense. Oh, he's just given me a strategy, be it over 1 point goals in the summer school, be it trading over 2.5 goals with the calculator I did with correct score coverage, be it they'll see it and off they go and they give it 2-3 games, 3-4 games. So it's really important that we get into some logic and methodology to what we do. And if I've got one bit of advice for you tonight, if you're struggling football trading, get just one method. I keep coming back to how I started. I laid the draw for 3 years, did nothing else. Yes, it was different, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that again. The market was different back then, so it was a good market to trade. Would that be where I start now? Absolutely not. I would probably start with over 1.5 goals if it was me starting now. But my advice to you is, if you want to trade football, pick one market, find a way of playing it, and then stick at it and give it a bit of a go. And then you can tweak it from there. You can work. Why isn't it working? You've got an idea. Jumping around will never, ever, ever, ever work for you. Evening, Headmaster. Lovely to see you. Evening, Benjamin. How are we going to play those games? So this has got to satisfy our bounty. So I talk a lot about, the method I'm going to show you this evening. I enter late, so I let the game play 20 minutes before I do anything. If that doesn't suit you, if you're somebody on a Saturday afternoon who's going to sit getting uptight because there's been you've got a list of 5 games and there's been early goals in 4 of them, and that's going to ruin your day's trading, then don't trade that way. Find a way that suits you, but that way has got to show you a long-term profit. And I'm going to show you exactly how I go about that this evening. And it all comes down to stuff we've talked about in the first few: understanding markets, understanding how markets move, understanding how markets reset. And the bottom line, unfortunately, is people don't want to work. They just think this should be easy and they can do it all for as little effort as possible. And I hope you appreciate the effort. When I show you what I do, I hope you appreciate the effort that goes into doing that. It's not difficult because obviously we've got everything in place thanks to people like Alistair, but hopefully I'll show you, we'll explain that to you. Execution, and again, this has to suit you. So it's the same sort of strategy and execution go back together. Execution I focus on. You've got to make sure you do the same thing every time. So what happens in one trade doesn't change how you do it next, but it's exactly the same sort of thing. If you have those 3 or 4 games that, let's say you're going to enter after 20 minutes in your head, 4 games have an early goal, and then sometimes people just enter the 5th game earlier because they just want to be in it. So your execution has to be fixed. If you're not consistent, you've got absolutely no chance. And do not think, going back to what I said about Dunning-Kruger in previous episode, don't think you're better than you are. Unfortunately, people do when it comes to football. You're not. The markets are there. They will beat you up if you start to think you are better than them. You've got to settle on a strategy, and then you've got to execute that strategy, and you've got to trust in the work you've done to get to that point to enable you to make money. So for me, I'm going to build you through now a strategy step by step. I'm going to walk you through it first, and then I'm going to go through. So for me, the market I'm going to give you tonight is one of my favorites. Is first half 1.5 goals. I like it. It suits my mentality. I like the fact that the way I play it, the price accelerates greater. By getting in 20 minutes, the price accelerates quite quickly, and it's profitable. How do I pick my games? We've got FTS Advanced Stage, as I say, for those of you who don't, I'm going to open the sheet up in a minute. For this method, I use 6 game. We've got 2 models on there that give us a predicted goals for each game. We've got one based on season-long results, and we've got one based on 6-game results. I use the 6-game one because it's based on what's happening now. We get a first half goal predicted number and a match predicted number. I use 2 or more predicted first half goals. Why? Because I want 1.5 ideally, over 1.5. So why would I look at games where we're predicting less than that? So I look at 2 or more predicted goals. It's logical, it's relevant to the market, and I use a heat map approach, which again I'm going to show you, and the price bracket I'm going to show you is 2.4 to 2.9. And I remove the leagues I don't want to bet in for varied reasons, and those varied reasons will be time. So my days of trading MLS football, I used to do it, are long gone. I've got a little bit of automation, but I don't trade MLS football. I don't want to get in Brazil. I don't want to get in Japan anymore. I don't want to do Australia at 7 in the morning. So none of that I remove because of time. The time doesn't suit me. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't have to do it. The profitability in certain leagues, and that kind of goes along with liquidity. Some leagues, there's just not money in that market to make it worth my while. So I'm not going to piss around with the greatest respect for 20, 30 quids because it just doesn't interest me. So I can quite narrow my leagues down quite comfortably to go, these are the ones I want to bet in forward. I know I can get in. They suit my time. They've got money in them, and I know it's profitable. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to go into some sheets. If you feel free while I'm fannying around, moving. If you've got any questions so far, feel free to ask them. Present, stop screen. Automation. Steve Bellamy has said automation helps with this. It does. My one issue with people diving into automation, Steve, is, as I've said in earlier versions of this show, that unfortunately people don't learn the markets enough. They just think they can jump in and do it. And I mean, what I show you, going to show you tonight works, but you know, you've got to be able to trust it. Right, I've got to come back to this slideshow a minute. Hold on a second. I've got the sheet ready. Get you to the right screen. Right. So I'm just going to talk you through, and again, you'll be able to come back, and when you rewatch this, you'll be able to stop this. So I'm just going to share the slide again. And then we'll get into it. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to back over 1.5 first half goals. I've got 2 drips backing over 1.5 first half goals, and then I'm going to cover on a 0.5 first half goal. So ideally I'm looking for 2, but I'm going to cover myself if there's just 1. If there's a goal before I get the second drip in, I'm going to green it up. And if all bets get matched, I've got my 2 drips in, I've got my cover on, I'm going to let the game run out and do what it's done. And as I say, I'm removing these that I don't want for profitability and liquidity. One of the key areas for me before I decide when I'm going to enter, and this goes back to my point about automation and things, is I'm focusing on prices between 2.4, 2.9. I'll explain that in a minute why. You've got to understand then what prices you're getting into. So if you go back to number 1 of this show, when I talked about knowing what your profit is per game, by knowing how when you enter then what the price is, what happens if a goal, what's it reset at, can you do that enough times to make money? So you go back to that show and watch it. You've got to know the numbers. So this again comes back to why when I first start out, I don't use automation. I build it in the sheet and then I do it manually, because then I want to make sure it works. I want to make sure my numbers are right. Once I get to that, then I would say to somebody like Alistair, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm doing. Can you automate it, please? And then I'll go into automation and manual. I test the automation while I do it manually, and then eventually I would go to automation. And Thrunga said, right, yeah, if it scares you a bit, you know, I do like being in control. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to be know exactly what's going on. No bets are getting placed, no bets are getting matched. But automation has come on and plays a much bigger part in what I do these days. So the average prices for this market, for the games I'm looking at, 5 minutes, the average price is 3. 10 minutes is 3.6. This is for 1.5 first half goals. 15 minutes, it's 4. So you can see it goes up 0.6, then 0.8, almost a point in the next 5 minutes. And then this is what I talk about in that slide where I said the acceleration. All of a sudden from 20 to 25, it's going up 2 points. From 25 to 30, it's going up 5 points. How the market starts to react differently. Here it's right, there might be 2 goals. By here it's getting to the stage, well, actually, there probably isn't going to be. And by the time you get to 25 minutes, the average price for over 1.5 first half goals is about 7.4. And that's when you can cover your 0.5 on average. And I like to cover at 2.06, 2.08. If you wanted to wait till 30 minutes, then you could cover at 2.5. The strategy I use 20 and 25 minutes. So I go in on 20 minutes, I go in on 25 minutes. And I'm going to walk you right through all this, right through it. So that you understand exactly why. I'm going to show you the numbers behind that. So these are the average prices for the games I pick. So over 400, 500, 600, 700 games, these are the average prices. For some games, it will be 5.9. Other games, it might be 5.3, 5.0, 5.6. The average overall is 5.3. And when we get to 25 minutes, it's 7.4. And that enables me to work out what my average win per game will be, depending on the different scenarios. Right, let's get some sheets up. Feel free to ask questions, anything you don't understand, and I won't. I'll just ignore you and go back. Right, so let's escape out of that one. Get sheet up here. Okay. Right. Present. Share screen. Oh, it's warm tonight. I'm just going to have a little sip of water, guys. Right, so this is FTS Advanced Data. Most of you have seen it if you watch my videos, known about. This is what I use for trading. People say it's expensive. I say they're talking shit, and I'll explain why. Massive amount of data, massive amount of work. It's bang up to date to the game last night. That disgusting Leicester-Tottenham result is already in there from last night. It's absolute nonsense, isn't it? And as you can see, we've got form analysis. We then have our two models. So the green columns are where we've generated our expected numbers. We converted them into odds to compare to the market based on 6 games, and the yellow heading is where we've done it on season. And then we have got all the markets: home win, back and lay, under 2.5 back and lay, 1.5 back and lay, 3.5 back and lay, 4.5 back and lay, both teams to score, first half 0.5, and the market we'll be looking at this evening, first half 1.5. We've then got all the results, the goal times, we've got all the half-time scores, and 2 second half goals. So when people say that it's expensive, they genuinely haven't got a clue what they're talking about. There's loads of other data out there. It's not even fucking close, I'm telling you. So let's look at the models first. So this one's something I asked, well, how do I know your models work? So I've just put in some real simple formulas here. So this basically is our 4 models. So we have a model for first based on the 6 games. We have a model for the match based on 6 games. We have a model for the first half based on season, and we have a model for the match based on season. So 45 minutes, 90 minutes, 6 games, 45 minutes based on season data, 90 minutes based on season data. This is what actually happens in those games. So basically, this is looking at all 35,000 games and saying, when we've got model numbers between this is so between 101 and 1.5 first half goals. So when our model predicts for a game between 101 and 1.5 first half goals, how many goals do those games actually produce? They produce 1.21, pretty much bang in the middle. And if you wanted it, I mean, obviously what I tend to do is use first half numbers for first half goals and match numbers for full time, but they produce 1.21 first half goals per game on average and 2.74 match games. But so that's 101 to 1.5. If I change it to 1.51, you'll see it goes to nothing to 2. All of a sudden now both numbers go up, so we're now up to over 2.8. If I change it to 2.5 to 10, you can see now we're up to 1.37 and 3.03. As our model predicts more goals, those games have more goals. Absolute fact. It doesn't matter which one of these models I pick. They're all built slightly differently based on leagues and the teams in that league. But if I predict the match one between 3 and 4, you can see again 3.03. If I put it games where we predict more than 4 goals, it goes up to 3.23, 1.5 first half goals. So you can see by using these models, I've got full confidence that if I play the higher end numbers that our models predict, those games generate more goals. So if I want to look to trade goals, I'm going to pick games where our models generate high numbers. If I wanted to back unders, I'd go the other way. I'd start to look at where our model game predicts low goals. Most people prefer overs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with backing unders, but I check this data all the time because we need to check that that model works. So I need to check all the time that does this happen? Does when we predict more goals happen in games? If that started to reverse, we'd need to look at the model. But we've used the same thing for God knows how long now. I mean, Alistair's been doing it now 4 or 5 years. I was doing it manually before that so we've been doing it for certainly 8, 9, 10 years. Been working on the same premise of that. So it's just literally, as you can see, wherever you put it in, whatever numbers you put in here, it builds things up over time and the numbers of goals go up. So my basis is to use greater than 2. So on my slide, you go back. So I'm going to use greater than 2 goals based on the 6-game model. This is no other filters at all. This is just looking at all 35,000 games. So I haven't got into how the odds affect it or how the or removing leagues. So this just taking the whole overview. I've got a more complex version of this that gives me this breakdown by league. And you guys, as I've shown you in this series, for those of you who've got advanced, there's the goal time sheet and the goal averages sheet that can do all that, the goal averages and things for you. So what I next use, if you notice, I said in that slide 2.4 to 2.9. So this is why I'm picking these games, because they generate more goals. then I want to look at, right, okay, and some of you have got the heat map generating tool. So this is basically database again, so it's the FTS advanced data. I can put some settings on the front here and say, I want you just to have a quick scan of that whole data and output some information for me. And what I'm asking it to do is, can you look at games where we are predicting more than 2 first half goals on the 6-game model, so 6-game first half XG, where we're predicting more than 2 goals. I've put a max of 10. That's pretty much going to cover every game. And what I asked it for is, can you look at the back over 1.5 first half goals? I ran this before I came online just to save 2 or 3 minutes of your time. Basically, what that does is that prints out a sheet like this, which I'll make a little bit bigger for you. There. And basically what this does is it breaks down by Betfair prices. So 101 to 1.5, 1.36, 1.48. You can see we haven't got any games. And then it starts to get into where the games are bracketed, 1.62 to 1.71, 1.72 to 1.81. So it just breaks them down basically in 10 ticks across the market and says what the profit and loss would be. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in, does the market make money? I'm not just interested in is their goals. I'm interested in their goals. Can I make money out of those goals? You know, we go back to what I said about Dutch football in a previous one. We know that there's goals in Holland. Can I actually make money out of them? This basically gives me a guide. So you can see from here, if I select everything, so if I bet in every market, every league up to 2, I'd have bet in all these games here, and as I hover over a square, it tells me, so in that league, I've had 3 bets, and I've had 10. So there's probably a good 3,000 bets, sorry, in this range here, but I can't win any money, minus 209. If I do it for 2.4, 2.9, which is where I was telling you, and I go down here, there, sorry, he's there. Now you can see we make money. So we've got a situation there where, oh, hang on, I haven't got all the leagues. Let's get all the leagues, might help. Sorry about that. Get all the leagues. You can see now covering every league blind. So if we bet every single game in every single league where we were greater than 2 on RXG for 6 games, nothing else, every single game greater than 2, and where the price for over 1.5 first half goals was 2.42 to 2.9, we'd have won 41 points. So just by betting every single game, logging in the morning, going, right, I've got 8 games there where the XG off the sheet is greater than 2. Thank you, Alistair, for producing that this morning. All I've got to do now is look and go, right, and we could set automation up. If the price is between 2.42 and 2.9, I want to back over 1.5 first half goals. Just doing that blind, you'd have won 41 points. This is really key for me when I trade. If I'm not talking about trading in play, when we're looking at pricing in play, I'm talking about if we want to get a short list of games before we start and we want to trade them, if they do not make money, fixed odds betting them, it is almost impossible that you will be able to make money trading them. You might think you can, Dunning-Kruger, you won't, I'm telling you. And people just go around in circles doing it. One of my first key things before I put anything out to trade is I need it to make money to fix odds. Right, so why don't you bet it fixed odds? Because I don't want losing runs of 20, 30. I want to be able to control what I do. And somebody asked the question, it might have been Nick Segura, I'm not sure, where we covered this topic in the Telegram room. The one thing it allows me to do trading, I can have bigger stakes. And if I know my losing runs are under control and shorter, I can, let's say I had a 10 grand bank, I can utilize that a lot better trading, and I can actually make money quicker because I know I'm not going to have losing runs of 15, 20 games. So I can adjust my bank slightly differently. I can stake more on, which means I win more per game, and that enables me to manage my position. So that is why I like trading methods as opposed to straight betting them. You know, I have portfolios of both, but it's the fact that I can control that, and it enables me to have more money on it. It enables me to maximize my returns in the right places. So I've got a decent memory. I thought it was unique. There you go. And that's one of the big reasons why I do it. But I want it to prove to me first that this makes money. So quite clearly here, that makes money. 2.4 to 2.9 odds for over 0.5, over 1.5 first off goals, 5 minutes pre-kickoff. Looking at every single league that is, and the only filter I have applied The only filter I've applied is I'm only looking at games where our model says there's going to be 2 or more first half goals. There's other areas that are profitable. If I go down the other end of the sheet up here, this is profitable when we get to here. So you can see down there, we went 3 to 4. That's 156 points. So you could do that. But again, it comes down to our Bamsey thing. Less bets, a little bit more spread out. Always going to be more losers the bigger price there is. So for me, my sweet spot is 2.4 to 2.9. You've got to do what suits you. It may be that people want to play the bigger prices and go in a bit earlier. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it all comes back to what suits you. I'm just showing you exactly how I build it. So that's where we've got to so far. What I'm going to do now is go to the front of the sheet and put these in. So I'm just going to filter this. Bear with me. I'll make it a bit bigger. Oh, hang on a minute. We need a filter on the sheet. That might help. If you don't know how to filter a sheet, highlight the row you want to put filters on, go to the sort and filter tab, and I'll just click filter, and you'll see it puts these lovely little drop down arrows on. And I'm just going to do here numbers. I'll do exactly what we had between 2 and 10 there. Then I'm going to fly over here to first half 1.5 goals, and you can see. So you can see here between 2 and 10, it wins. It wins 175 points laying a first half goal. It wins 60 points back in a first half 0.5 goal. One filter, just our model, nothing else. It wins 58 points in the first half goal market overall. But to win that 58 points, you'd have had to have 3,856 bets, which clearly we only want to have. So I'm just going to narrow in on the prices. So between 2.42 and 2.9. You can see it gives us that 41.46. So that's an exact replica of what the heat map's shown us. I'll be honest, I wouldn't go 2.42 to 2.9. I'd go 2.4, and it may make a slightly difference, but I'm not going to worry over one tick. I go back to what I said about one other one. So I'm quite happy there. Oh, it actually puts it up. There you go. So 2.4 to 2.9. I've got it down to 1,500 bets. It wins 45 points straight. It wins 121 points laying a first half goal at an average price of 4. Fantastic. There you go. See, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm going to stop sharing just because I don't want to bore you all while I filter up and down. How do I do that? If you've got any questions, ask them. I'm just going to get the rest of this set up, and then we'll come back to you. But ask any questions away if you've got it. So this bit's a lot of mana filtering. This is the work, you see. This is the work that I say to people. You've got to put in a bit of work to stuff. Right. So where are we here? I just want to check that I've got this set. I just wanted to check it, and then I can run you through it. It's easier just to make sure I've got it set than make a load of rigs while I'm doing it and talking. A lot of little itsy bitsy filters needed. I will talk you through. So you're going to see it all. Don't panic, Captain Mannering. Right, would I still trade these if the price drifted? Well, the price that we've worked it on is 5 minutes pre-kickoff. So if it was in that price 5 minutes pre-kickoff, then I'm going to trade it. I At the moment, I'm on the phase of monitoring then if that's moved from the morning there, but at the moment 2.4 to 2.95 minutes pre-kickoff for this method is absolutely fine. Right, so what I've done here now, I just was fanning around filtering up and down. Let me just get the sheet back for you. I'll talk you through. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to recreate, and I've talked about this before in another video, but I'm trying to recreate the trading scenario. So I've got my average prices because I've watched markets and I know that. And I'm trying to recreate a trading scenario. And people are going to go, how do we get our average prices? Do what I do, watch the markets. You don't need to watch too many, just go in price bands and watch what happens when goals go in or don't go in. What do they reset at? Mark it down in 5-minute periods. You'll soon start to know where markets reform. Yes, we are working on something down the line that will do it for you and it will give you the minute by minute prices, but that's a bit of a way off. Put some work into it and then you'll understand, and hopefully what I show you tonight shows you why you should put work into it. So what I've done here, I've removed the leagues I don't want to be in, the MLSs, Brazils, overnight stuff. And I've taken out all the games. So I've got a filter on here, where OFF gives me the first goal in the game. I've taken out all the games that have had a goal 1 to 19 minutes. So if you remember my strategy, I'm going to enter on 20 minutes. So anything that happens in the first 19 minutes, I don't want to look at in my research. So all I've done is remove those games. So that's left me with the games that have got no goal, because if they don't have a goal, I'm going to lose. Doesn't matter what happens. And all the games that have got goals then from 20 minutes onwards. And that's left me with a count here of 403 games. So I've got 403 games where they're in my leagues. The XG is greater than 2 or greater for first half goals based on our 6-game model. And the games haven't had a goal. I've got to 20 minutes and the games are 0-0. I've been able to recreate that in the sheet. So I now know I've got 403 games that I would have been actively involved in trading that suit everything that I want. And I'd be able to enter those games on 20 minutes. If we do, I'm going to untake the -1s for the minute and we'll just see there. So I'm going to take out the games that didn't have a goal. There's 255 games left. So 255 of those games had a goal, which means that, put the -1s back, 255 from 403, which means 148 of those 403 games didn't have a goal. I'm going to lose 148 games because they haven't got a goal. It doesn't matter how I play them. That's one of the first things to get in your head. 36% of these games I am going to lose. It doesn't matter how I play them. Going in earlier, what doesn't help that scenario? Going in later doesn't help that scenario. The games don't have a goal. I'm fully unaware of the fact that 36% of the time I'm going to lose. I need that number cemented in my head, because basically that's 148, whatever my stake is, 148. So say it was £10, 148 times £10, I am going to lose £1,480. There's 255 games that have goals. The simple equation is, out of that 255 games, I've got to win more than £1,480 to make the whole thing viable. If I win £1,480 exactly, it doesn't make it viable. It makes it completely unviable, because basically I've just spent a whole load of time going nowhere. So in effect, let's say it was £1,480, £10 a game, I'd want to win £2,480, because then I'll make £1,000. So out of the 255 games, I need to make £2,480 for all the work that's involved. Buying the data, sitting down, working all this out, all the work I'm doing now, putting my time into trading, keeping records, funding it, explaining to Sam why I'm sat here doing it. All that's got to make sense. I'm not doing it like a lot of the reasons you guys do it because you think it's a bit of fun. It all comes down to numbers. Can I make this work? Is it worthwhile at the end of it? A lot of stuff that you build may not be, but if you go about it this way, then I promise you'll find stuff that does pay. So does everybody understand what I've done on the sheet there to get to that 403 games? Before we get into the numbers, because I don't want to lose anybody, does everybody understand what I've done there? So I filtered it to greater than a 2 or greater first half XG model. I've removed the leagues I don't want to bet in. I've taken out all the games that had an early goal up to 20 minutes because that is when I want to enter. So I can recreate the scenario now based on the numbers of how I'm going to do it. I'll just wait for any questions. Have a quick drink. And obviously the key to this is you've got to know your markets. And going back to the sessions I've talked about, if you're not going to put any effort into learning about betting markets, you genuinely shouldn't be in them. And I make no bones about that. You just shouldn't be anywhere near them if you're not going to put the effort into learning about them. And with the greatest respect to the guy who did the cup games, if you're going in shit like that with completely clueless ideas, because some bloke on a podcast has mentioned a strategy to you, you need to give your head a wobble, sit down, go back and do it properly. He's going to think I'm picking on him. I'm not. I want you to win. Right, so let's just do some brief numbers with this sheet while we're here then. So we've got 403 games. I'm just going to take the minus ones out and get to the 255 winners again. So we've got 255 games where there's a goal, so there's potential winnings. But let's just have a look at the halftime scores in them. Of those 255, 161 of them finished 0-1 or 1-0 at half time. 94 of them had more than 2 goals in the 2 or more goals going forward. Oh no, hold on a minute, because what we need to do, we need to actually go to when we've got all the bets matched. That's the one there. So I'm just going to go to 25 minutes. I thought that number was a bit high for winners. 25, yeah, we've got 184 games where we've got to full bets matched. And then of those, I think, yeah, 59, only 59. So there's only 59 games when we've got all our bets matched from that field of 43, when we've put our 2 drips in and we've covered our 0.5, there's only 59 games out of 403, only 59. It sounds tiny, but actually have 2 goals from that point. So it is a small percentage. Does it allow us to make money? So, you know, that's quite a key number to remember. Again, I went for 2 goals. I didn't get many. 59 out of 403 games. You know, it really isn't a big number. 15%, something like that. It's not a big number at all. So I'm just going to end this and I'm going to walk you right through the numbers now. Hold on a minute. Do stop me if anybody doesn't understand. Another beautiful production. Minimize that a minute. Bring this back up. Right. Done it to £20 stakes for people so that they can understand them. Present. Can I walk you through this? Share screen. Window. Hang on a minute. I need to play the slideshow. Might help, mightn't it? I'm all over it. Right. Screen share. Which one? There. Share. Do we bring it up? Right. So I've done this based on 3 bets I'm going to have. I'm going to have £20 per game, £5 drips on the 1.5. So £5 on 20 minutes, £5 on 25 minutes, and £10 covering the 0.5 at 2.06, round about 25 minutes. With that filter and leagues, there were 701 games in total. We removed all the games that had an early goal. We got down to 403 games. So we had 403 games that we were there, that we were going to be involved in. 148 of those games, as we filtered and showed you, 36% didn't have a goal. So at £20 stakes, in the video earlier on I mentioned 1,480. At £20 stakes, losing everything because I put the whole lot on, I lose £2,960, which means I've got the 255 games where there was a goal to wipe that out and make a profit. I need to know this before I start trading, because if I don't know it, it's an absolute waste of time me starting trading. It becomes completely and utterly pointless. It might, if I want to try and find out on the fly, it might cost me £1,000, which is probably what a lot of you guys have done over time. It might cost me £1,000 just to find out. And that's why we try and work it out, and then we test it forward and check those numbers match up, and then we can say this works. I can have as much on as I like, or as I can get on. So we need to win on average out of those 255 games to break that 2,900 odd quid there. We need to win on average £11.84 per game. That breaks us even. Go back to what I said. I don't want to break even. Absolute waste of time. If I wanted to win £1,000 on top, so I wanted to win £3,968, I need to win £15.53 on average per game. That's what I'm interested in. I mean, some games I'm going to win 25, sometimes I'm going to win 10. It depends on when goals go in. But because I know my average pricing, I know when I'm entering, I can work out what my average returns on a winner will be. I know what my losers cost me, so I can work it out. Can it be done? Let's walk through it. So 71 of the 255 games had a goal 20 to 24 minutes. So I've got one entry matched. I've put my fiver in. Greening those games, my average price, back price, is 5.3. I've looked at the markets. I know that the price around 20 minutes on average is 5.3. Don't need to, and you don't need to log a massive amount of games for this. You don't need to log thousands of games. If you sit and log 15, 20 games, markets are very similar. You'll start to see your average price go, actually, I can get in. It's always going to be about 5.2, 5.3. They move in the same way, these markets. They don't change. What you do when you're checking things, if all of a sudden it wasn't profitable, you go and check that average price and say, actually, that used to be 3 years ago 5.3. Now it's only 5. And I go back to when I mentioned lay the draw. You lay the draw at 4.2 when I started, a goal went in, it shot out to 8. Now you lay the draw at 4.2, it only shoots out to 6. So that profit margin came down, and that's the reason why it was harder to win. Not because the strike rate changed, because the market got better at reacting to goals and knowing what to do. And a lot of the idiots lost money early on Betfair and sodded off. Oh, I've gone back. Hold on. There. So greening those games, that's what I said I was going to do. If a goal goes in before I've got my second bet in, I'm going to green them. My average entry price is 5.3. I need to know what the average exit price. The average exit price is 2.1. So if a goal goes in 22 minutes, the market settles back down. It tends to settle down that you can lay round about 2.06, 2.12, an average of 2.1. That enables me to win £7.47 per game. So I've backed a fiver at 5.3. I've laid it back to green up at 2.1. It gives me £7.47 in winnings per game on average. 71 times £70.47. So those 71 games that had the goal 20, 24 minutes, after commission, I win £530.37p. I can almost work it out to the penny. For those of you who may not believe that, I've got another little sheet here. Let's make that bigger. Scroll over here a minute. Hold on a minute. Get over here. I've got that exact scenario here. Back odds at 5.3. My lay odds at 2.1. I'd need to lay back £12.62, and it gives me an equal profit of £7.47. So that's just a betting calculator, 2% commission. 5.3 laying at 2.1 gives me £7.47. So just wanted, I don't want people going, how's he got that number? He's made that up. Play from current slide. Back to that. So the games, I've got the 71 games, 20 to 24 minutes out of the 255. I've won £530.37. I'm still quite a bit short of my 2,900 losses. Of the remaining 184 games, then I'm all in. I've got my £5 at 5.3 in. I've got my £5 at 7.4 in, and I've got my £10 at 2.06. So we've got to the 25th minute. There hasn't been a goal. I've put it in. 125 of those games, of those 184, 1-0, 0-1. So I lose the two £5 bets, but I win my £10.38 for my tenner at 2.06 on my cover bet. So I actually win on those 125 games. I win 38p per game. It makes me £47.50. Look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves. I'm not just going to say I break even. I actually win £38 over the life of this. It makes me 50 quid, £47.50. So I've got my 530 there. I've picked up £47.50 from my 125. It's not looking favourable now, is it, for my 2,960? Because I've only got those 59 games left now where there was 2 goals. Of the 184, 59 had 2 goals or more required. These games win the full beans. So £5 at 5.3 wins £21.07 per game. 21.07 times 59. So that's £5 at 5.3 less commission. 4.3 times a 5 less commission. That wins that 59 times, wins me £1,243.13. £5 at 7.4 wins me £31.36. 5 times 6.4 less 2p commission is 31.36. 59 times, that wins me £1,850.24. And I've put my £10 cover bet in. £10 cover bet at 2.06. We know it wins 10.38 from the previous slide. £10.38 times 59 wins me £612.42. So I know exactly what I win and lose in every single scenario. The games where I don't get a goal, the games where I get 1 goal between 20 and 24, the games where I get 1 goal 21, 24, 25 onwards, and the games where I get 2 goals 25 onwards or 2 goals and more. I can add all that up. So the returns, games 1-0, 0-1 with a goal 2024 is £530.57. Games 1-0 with the goal 25 plus, where I'm just getting my cover bet to cover it, £47.50. Games, the 59 games that 2 goals plus, £3,705.79. If you don't believe me, you can get your calculators out and add up the 1,243.13, the 1,850.24, the £612.42. It adds up to £3,705.79, giving me a profit on the 255 games that had a goal or more of £4,283.86. My 148 losers cost me 2,960. So £1,323.86 profit, betting £5, £5, £10, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, covering the 0.5. All of a sudden, FTS Advanced isn't expensive. It's a valuable tool, isn't it? Because all you've got to do is take that approach and build it out over one market. Then you build it out over another market, then you build it out over another market, then you perhaps add a few more leagues, and you expand and expand and expand, and all of a sudden you've got a trading portfolio that you cannot fucking be beat on. All you've got to do then is keep an eye on the numbers, make sure if something falls down, you know why. Is it because there's less goals? Is it because the average prices are changing? And you can manage yourselves and you trot along making money for the rest of your life, and you don't need me. All you actually need to do is get a decent data sheet and apply yourself. Thank you and good night. Any questions? And when people say, how do I know it works? That's why I know it works, because I do all that shit before I go and put a bet on. Nope, stunned silence. Right, thanks ever so much, everybody. There'll be somebody desperately checking the numbers. Check away, my friends. It's stunned silence. Nobody. Right. Have you perhaps all left? I've no idea. And I've just shown you exactly how to build a system and a model that you can copy. All you've got to do is carry on and do it and execute. And the problem that you lot have is you don't give anything ever time. In the if I go back to that, hold on a minute. Let me just go back to this. Hang on, I'm going to go back to the sheet. Actually, I did forget one thing to show you. Just in the data. Let me just fly to. I've got all the right filters. Right. Here we go. Hold on a minute. Share. I'm going to share the screen. Again, I just want to show you one thing in the data. I did allude to it on losing runs, but what I've done here, I've gone back to the 701 games. So I've taken all the filters off, and what I said about losing runs, if we look at the first half 1.5 market, if I can find it. If you look at this as a fixed odds system, look at that. Look, opening up first 11 bets all lost. So again, if we were putting this on, as a set, we'd open up with 11 losers. That's why the trading, you're still going to have losers. You're going to have runs of 5-6 games that finish 0-0 starting on 20 minutes. Of course you are. You've got to suck that up. I've told you you're going to lose 36% of your games. Go back to when in the early sessions of this, when I talked about how many goals are there after 80 minutes, the reality to what people want. You've got to know what happens. You know, I did that in these sessions, talk to you how often things happen. You've got to know that and have it in your head. But what I am eliminating by trading them, I'm not going to have, you know, this could be demoralizing, and it's straight up. You know, I've had 11 losers, then I had a couple of winners on, then I'm losing again. That's where you lot get demoralized by trading it in this way. Well, it's fun. I think it's really good fun. And then it's, you tend to control that, so you don't put yourself through so much of that. As long as you learn to accept that you're going to have bad days, because you will pick 4 games and they will end 0-0, and you may think, well, I've wasted my day. There's no way around that, but for a mindset point of view, it does eliminate that. Anything that needs to be considered if you're using Ultimate? No, you can use the Ultimate sheet. Obviously, sheets 8 and 9 have got 5-minute prices for the goal markets. You've got form calculations. What you haven't got there, which we've got on advanced, is the model numbers. And for me, trading, they're quite key, because I want to trade around games where there's goals, and that's why I use advanced for trading. Thank you, Carl. Up the Plymouth. John, how would you forward test? So yes, I build it, John. Exactly that. Son, how would you forward test it? Paper trade. I'd just do it to small stakes then. Just start really small. Again, most people start too big. You know, just scale that back. I don't bet in 20 quids. You know, I don't bet in 20 quids. I bet in more than that. I've just scaled it back to 20 quid because it's a manageable number for anybody. But you can scale it right back to 2 quid, 2 quid, 4 quid. And just see how you go. It's all about the percentages and what you're making per bet. Compared to the number of losers you have. Now, obviously, if you're picking a lot of more losing games than the 36%, you're going to struggle. But I've given you the exact parameters to pick. The only way you do that is if you went around and faffed around with it even more, because people can't help themselves. I've given you anybody who's got advanced can do this from, not tomorrow because there's no games, or Thursday, but Friday onwards. Simple. You can bet them, as I've shown on the sheet. Yeah, you can bet them fixed odds, but you're just going to go through a pain like this. I think there's a run of 11, there's a run of 10, and I can trade it for more money then without that. Going back to the sort of Nick's query that he had in Telegram. Right, I think I've done myself as well. It is 8:30, not bad. Took me an hour. I thought I'd be longer tonight. I'll be back next week for number 5, the 5th and final one, and then I'm going to make a little short video for advanced members, just on some strategies, just to give you a little arsenal of strategies to take into the season once the international breaks settle down. But this will be one, but a couple of others. Just so you've got them all in one video rather than chopping, going, what did Ian say about that? I get questions all the time about what time did you enter. If you wanted to enter at different times, I've given you the average prices on the slide. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Obviously, you're going to have more losers if you go in at 30 minutes than you would if you went 20-25. If you want to go in earlier, that's absolutely fine. Just check the numbers work out. Filter the sheet, remove the goal times for the games that don't count. But you can apply that to any single market. It doesn't matter. I just use one that I like. You can apply it to any of them and do exactly the same. It is mathematics. As long as you sit and do the maths first before diving in, you've got much more chance. Right. Thank you, David. You're more than welcome. Thank you for saying thank you. I appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you, Stu B. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, BK. Thanks, Nick Ansell. Thanks, Mike Rang. Thanks, Steve. Steve's changed the logo. We haven't got the flipping Liverpool logo. I'm not even going to read what that says. Good boy. Right, I'll be back next week. Have a great time. Enjoy your weekend. Podcasts and things will resume. Yes, we've had a bit of a rough time, but we're coming out the other end. And I'll speak to you all soon.